Thank you very much, Pastor. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here tonight with you all to share a testimony from me. Well, you all know my name is Kevyn Wilson. I'm from Trinidad. I grew up in Curepe in Trinidad. I am 34 years of age. Yeah. So, where should I start? Okay. First and foremost, I want to start with how I grew up at home, right? I grew up with my grandparents and my mother. Okay, my mother used to work two jobs. She used to play the role both mother and father because unfortunately my father abandoned me from the age of 4. So only when I became an adult I really got to know who my father was at the time. Right? He left because he had some pressures of life on his own side with his family, so he made a decision to go away. All right, so the plan was really for my mother and I to go up to Canada with him, but unfortunately that didn't work out. Yeah? But going forward, the household I grew up in with my grandparents, it wasn't the best. My grandparents were married. However, we had a lot of issues at home there in terms of a lot of arguing, a lot of quarreling, a lot of fighting. Now, my grandfather used to drink a lot of alcohol in his young days, right? And when he came home, he used to abuse my grandmother and the rest of his family, right? But fast forward down, when I came about as his grandchild, he wasn't able to be drinking alcohol anymore because due to a medical condition, and he stopped drinking alcohol entirely because of that. But that didn't change the way his heart was. He was always one to fight and quarrel and always start something. You know, I could remember days where he and I would fall out and would fight and quarrel. Yeah, I lost the first fight. My grandmother would say, hey, you know what, you could be the trouble, you could be the cause of everything in this house happened to go bad. All right. So from that early age, I had a problem of rejection at home. And at a point in time when I went out to make friends out on the road, you know, normal, I did not believe in fighting. I was always one to be soft and always try to see the good in people now, not fight. But I used to get mobilized, or I shouldn't say mobilized, I used to get taken advantage of. And what happened to that is that I decided that one day, enough is enough. And I'm not going to take any more disrespect from anybody or anyone. And from the date I made that decision, I was at the age of 8, 9. Yeah. I made that decision. I would not let anyone take advantage of me again. No more disrespect will come my way. And when that happened in my heart, something triggered in me. And when that triggered, I had understand what it was to have mental boxes. And you consider your feelings, thoughts, and emotions. Your feelings, thoughts, and emotions. These are 3 separate entities that you take and you separate them and you find a way to live in the middle of it. Whereas you put these into mental boxes in your head, in your mind. So that means that you rid yourself of feelings. It's like you're there, but you have no emotions. And that happened to me at an early age when I made that decision. That happened to me on through going to school. That mindset was with me, and bullies will come around me and they will try to take advantage, or as we used to say in school, they try to tax you. But guess what? The truth is, I wasn't taking any tax. And in these junior sec days, a guy came to fight from the tax and I broke his arm. Yes, I wasn't taking that. And all through that was just these are all steps that took place in the bigger things that happened. So deep down in my heart, the Sever was born, a different personality was born, but it wasn't given a name until I reached out to the streets, the block. Now the block is a totally different environment. And how I got to there is I met a guy named Sandman. He was actually the drug dealer or the leader for the whole East-West corridor. Sure many of you know that recently he would have died. I did not attend the funeral because there's no place for a man of God for me to be there. But yeah, when I met him, he took me under his wing and showed me the ropes of being a drug dealer. Showed me the ropes in terms of, you know, how it is you'll get business done, who is the clients you meet, who is the links you deal with. You know, he taught me a different way of life. And in a kind of a way, he came like a father figure to me because my own father wasn't around in my life. So I went out there and I met him. And I looked at him as, hey, this man respected, strong, nobody going around him. So, you know, he really showed me the ropes. And then upon the time now, after a while passed, I decided that, you know what, I don't want to be under anybody else's wing anymore. I don't want to be under his wing anymore. I believe that I've learned enough about the luck and the connections and the people and the relationships that was made. I decided to start my own cartel. And what happened is that in starting that process, I had a couple of friends with me. A close personal friend who's married now and in Brazil. I had a right-hand man I used to call, his nickname Ninja. His name is Stefan. Right? I had a couple other people. But within this time frame of developing this cartel, I came across a lot of new people, a lot of new relationships. I came across real stone cold killers in terms of assassins, where assassins are real. If you look at the movies, they are very real. I came across some assassins that I had as friends, that if any sort of trouble would take place, I can ask them to deal with the situation for me. Right? Now the way I used to do business is that I used to deal with middlemen. That means that in each location in Trinidad, I'll have one person in each area. If it's in Curepe, San Grande, Chabonas, Tobago, right? Now I'll have one person in each of those areas. They will be the ones that do the deals and everything. But I'll have one person to go and actually make the delivery and to pick up. And it had a certain market we should target, because I never believed in that we should put people's lives in danger by putting them out in the street to battle with other hustlers. Nah. We were more above than that. So in the process of that now, when those relationships went well, we had some ups and downs where I had to deal with certain people. There was one that was a Rasta man. He tried to post a coup or try to take over. But the truth is, I wasn't allowing that. So I'm not taking any disrespect. And I shot him. Well, me and some friends, we took him and we string him up on a tree, we beat him, and I shot him in his leg. Now, the truth is, I was actually aiming to kill him, but someone begged for him and said, no, don't do that. Fast forward, a second incident happened where I got the name Sever, and people knew the name Sever and people respected me, is because I would cross many lines. I've crossed many lines in my life, and I'm not afraid. Back then, I wasn't afraid to do it. Another incident happened where someone tried to take advantage of the goods again. For this thing actually wants to take advantage, he betrayed me. And I had an issue with traitors. When that happened with traitors, I had no choice but to sever his hand. Sever his hand as a mark of disrespect. That's something for you to remember. You don't be traitors. I never liked traitors back in the days. I suffered with a lot of bitterness, and due to rejection and hurt, I had that bitterness in my heart for traitors. I stepped up and I dealt with them very seriously. It was no laughing matter, it was serious business. You come around me, I deal with you. That's how I used to live. But fast forward, I started to upgrade in terms of the type of business I started to do now. Eventually, we started to go into guns, bringing in high-powered rifles, 12-gauge shotgun, automatic, 12-gauge where we double pump, bringing those to sell on the streets to certain little small men. And then we updated into prostitutes, whereas we had women came in from Cuba, Venezuela, South American, and etc. And the goal was that we used to let these women go and work in certain areas in Trinidad and Tobago, certain whole houses. I used to send them to go and work. Now, a lot of people used to say back then to me that I was too soft and that I shouldn't have been this kind of thing. Because I was a gangster with morals. Gangster with morals, which is true, because to the extent I did not like unfairness. I didn't like to see people taking advantage of. And this was one of the reasons why I left Salmon and decided to do my own thing. Because Salmon always wanted everything and take advantage of everyone. That wasn't my style. And the truth is, I look out for people. It's only if you cross me that I deal with you. However, relationship with people grew. I had enemies, but there was a minimum enemies because people respected me because I care about myself. I eventually, as things grew on the cartel, my ambition grew for more money, more power, and more respect. That is what had driven me before, and all this happened because my heart, I made one decision back then to not be disrespected ever again or to let anybody take advantage of me. And that is where the server was born. People knew the server on the block as a serious man. They knew the server as one person who you don't play with his goods. You don't play with his goods at all. And the thing is that, fast forwarding now, within all that money and all that power, and I have all this, at some point in time, I started to feel like lonely. I had like nothing. I felt like, I had girlfriends before in the past, but it wasn't good. I felt something different. I just felt a loneliness. And each time I would go, I still had the interest in making money and the power. That never changed. But I still started to feel in the secret place, I started to feel sad, lonely. Because deep down inside, I used to tell myself that darkness is my friend. And in the darkness is where you can sit. Darkness will leave you. It's always there to comfort you. That's how I used to look at it. But then eventually, as a man, you want companionship. And unfortunately, I wasn't the right person to love. I didn't have that kind of love, what people will describe in a household. I didn't have the love. I went out there and I found love at the family, what I thought love was, but it really wasn't. But when I came to the gospel, came to the kingdom, Jesus Christ really showed me what it was to really love people and really to have a heart for people. Because back then as a servant, who will cut people, who will shoot people, who will beat up people, and who will approach people for disrespecting and force the fear of respect down your throat. That heart had to change, and that heart was a cool, bitter heart. And I'm telling you here tonight, I've learned how to love when I came to God, because when I was not with God, I was totally dead inside. I was walking alive with health and strength, but the truth is my heart was dead. I had no love for people. I would cross the line to do what I had to do. And this is how I came about as a server. Fast forwarding now, when I came and encountered the gospel, there was always a pastor that a Friday night, always this particular Friday night, I would take this time to say, you know what, let me walk over here to see a punch or whatever it is. Because normally when I travel anyway, I always had drivers to come and take me to where I go. Because when I was home, and my mom, she never knew all this was going on, because I lived a double life. I never brought any business at home. I never gave the impression as if women were coming home by me. Nobody would see that. But in the secret place at night, when drivers come, pick me up, we go and handle business in certain areas. And I was more like a mysterious kind of guy, because I never really used to talk much, and people never really knew what I really was doing. My mom suspected something was different, but she never really saw any evidence to say, well, all right, that my son in this thing. She never saw that. But you know, but I thank God it didn't play out that way. However, Saturday nights when I went for punch, I used to walk on the road. And this particular time, this pastor from the Potter's House Church, Curepe, he always used to be out there, always giving flyers. And one day he gave me a flyer. That was Pastor Desmond. He gave me a flyer and he said, man, Jesus love you, man. I was like, I look at the flyer and I said to him, I say, church? I said, nah, boy. He said, nah, boy, church is not for me, boy. Nah, trust me, the kind of things I do, nah. Church is not for me at all. I ain't ready for this gospel thing. Cool. Second time I saw him, I said, man, there's an occasion afterwards. I saw him. He said, man, Jesus loves you, man. Come and give the gospel a try. I'll look at the trial, complete and a trait. And I said, nah. I said, Pastor, this thing's not for me. But man, nah, it's not for me. Cool. Third time, I saw Pastor Desmond again. And for some reason, I always seen him in the same spot at that particular time. I'm walking on the road, right? And he had a flyer. But this time, I was feeling a lot different because I felt that I had the money, had the power, I had a girlfriend at that time, but I wasn't happy. And I think that was the first time where I actually listened and I said, well, all right. He invited me to a gospel concert. And I said, well, a concert, so this is not service where you have too much singing and thing, right? He said, well, no, it's just a concert. You have singing, it's a concert. I said, all right, cool. I'll come and check it out. And I did come and check it out. And the services, the concert was good. It was really good. And I was like, yeah, well, this place different, man. Real different. And fast forward now, I decided to say, you know what? All right, let me check out this church a little more. So I never went to a Sunday morning service yet. I had only decided to go. I came Wednesday nights. The time I used to come very late. The reason is because I used to go and handle business on the block and handle things and handle some people who fallen out of line. That was the purpose why. And after that, I'll come to church, whatever remaining time I'll watch the time. Hey, church service still going on, I'm gonna stop by. Right? So the first time I stopped by to the church, I had a gun in my pocket. I had a gun right in my back pocket. And I said to myself, I enter the house, Lord, so you know what? I'm gonna put this in my bag. So I got a brown bag. I put the gun in the brown bag and I came upstairs. And I took the back seats and I put the gun on the seat itself in the brown bag. And I pulled the chair very close to me because I didn't want anybody to come and sit next to me with that gun there. Right? Pastor Desmond will preach messages and I listened. And eventually, over time, the gospel started to come into my heart. I mean, when I came into church, I didn't know nothing at all. Nothing about God or anything else. I knew about who God is because when I was growing up, my grandmother used to drag me to church, the Anglican church, and boy, I just couldn't take that singing and all this church thing back then. Right? But when I came into the Potter's House Church, I saw something different. I felt something different. When Pastor started to preach and he spoke about a relationship with Jesus Christ, that is what really sparked something in me. Same way how back then when I was disrespected, something sparked in me back then, and it became a sever. Something else different sparked in me when I heard that relationship with Jesus Christ. Not once, I heard it a couple of times when I came. The few times I came late, I heard that. And after I heard that, it was playing on my mind, you know. I started to go on the thing and I saying, this pastor will talk about money, he will talk about religion, he will talk about a relationship, you know, something different here, boy. And afterwards, I decided that, all right, I'm gonna come to church. Decided to come to church earlier. But the funny thing is that when I come to church earlier, I'm actually taking up time for the block. Those fellas, those guys out there, they knew me as always on time, always early to handle business. The server don't play. When it comes to money, he don't play. But they realize where you're coming late, so they're like, hey, boss, dog, why you coming so late, boy? I say, well, boy, here this now, boy. I'm going to church. I'm going to church, man. And he was like, church? You? You going to church and coming back out here? Nah, come to you, boy. You're a fraud, boy. You're a fraud, boy. You going to church and coming here? When he said that, back then I would have been like, yeah, fire about that, boy. You know, them words, I don't care about that. But when he said it now, I started to feel different. I started to feel bad. I felt guilty. You know, because it's like after coming so many times to the church, the Quarter Association in Curepe, and hearing the gospel and just listening, it just felt bad, boy, to be going back out there and doing that, boy. And at that point in time, I became to a crossroads. And a crossroads in my life led me to decide now what is I really want to do, because I started to lose the compassion and the drive and the will to want the power, the money, the girls, and everything. I just decided that, you know what, I really don't want this anymore, boy. So I had a discussion with Pastor Desmond, and I told him that, I said, Pastor Desmond, here, I had to handle some things, but I'm coming back. I need to take care of some things, and I'm coming back. And I went away and I stayed away for 2 months. And within those 2 months, I was cleaning up. Certain things that was going on. That is the drugs life. I passed on the business, youre to my close friend. Well, used to be my friend, my right-hand man. His name is Ninja. I passed it on to him. I decided to help out a friend who wanted to go away and start over. I used job money that I had. I paid for him and his wife to go away to start over a new life. And I also paid for the women who were under me to go back home, because the way that they were taken against their will and they were here in Trinidad working, after me come to the gospel, I felt that I had the money. It's better. I didn't want the same one. I wanted to help them. So I helped them go out and let them get back to the countries, wherever countries they are. And when I returned to church with no baggage. I returned clean. Well, I wasn't 100% straight, because I really didn't understand what is love. I didn't understand the relationship with Christ. I only heard about it, but I didn't understand it. And over time, Pastor Desmond really took the time to spend with me. He took the time to discuss with me about the gospel. We will talk about things about my past life. We were discussing about his past life, and he will help me to understand the gospel and what is the purpose of God in the kingdom. And he opened up the whole world of the fellowship to me. Explain to me about the discipleship and a man being saved, born again. He really took the time and invested, and we had conversations. Now, mind you, I was rebellious, rough. Pastor Desmond had arguments, but it wasn't arguments to say that we will fight each other and vex with each other. But we had disagreements. There's some things I didn't agree with at the time. But as time goes by and growing, I understood where he was coming from, But after that, now, started to look in straight. And one day, Pastor Desmond was preaching messages and things, and you've seen about a disciple. And I was like, what's a disciple, right? Then he preached a message about disciple, and after listening to that message and thing, one evening after we went for ice cream and dropped him back home, I said to him, Pastor Desmond, I just came in church. I have no idea what is going on with God and this thing. I just started doing certain things, but something in my heart telling me that I want to be a disciple. I say, I don't know what is discipleship. I don't know what is a disciple, but I want to be a disciple. And from that day, Pastor Desmond, he took the time and he explained to me what is disciple and discipleship. And, you know, trust me, I was a difficult disciple to deal with. Very difficult disciple in the beginning. I used to get them thunder, pressure. But, you know, I thank God for him. I thank God for the way he dealt with things and the way he was able to bring the direction for me to understand more and more about the gospel. And moving forward now, when I came into church and I was kind of locked into church a bit, so I saw this nice young lady in church, and I'm like, wow, I like, hey boy, who's hanging in front of me, boy? No, by the grace of God, thank God now that young lady is my wife, Sabrina. I didn't know it then that would be my wife. But God is so good, God is so great that God he brought a wife for me, and it was all because of the decisions made to just follow him. It was just about just to follow him, and it wasn't about my will anymore, about the money, the power, the girls, the guns. It wasn't about that anymore. The mission had changed, my heart had changed, the whole perspective of that feelings, thoughts, and emotions was thrown away from my heart, and a heart of wanting to reach people and to see souls saved and help people to understand that God is real. Because the part I was going on, I would have never gotten married. I would have never gotten married because I didn't really had a father figure to teach me these things about marriage and what a father is supposed to do, a husband is supposed to do. Never had these things. But when I came to church for the first time, and I looked at Pastor Desmond at that point in time, and I saw him, I saw how he does work with his family, and I was like, wow, this is a father. And I clung to him, and he became like a father figure to me, and I thank God that he really helped me. I give God all the praise and all the glory that he helped me to really find his destiny now, that I could see that God has placed on my heart to preach the gospel. And I'm believing God that one day that this is going to come to pass and the gospel is going to be preached, and we're not going to stand back here and just let the devil just kick us over. Back then when I was in 7, I was pushed to the best and always go through all the obstacles no matter what. I walk through the walls and beat up people. But in this case, we're going to walk through and we're going to beat up the devil and take the people away from him. And so the gospel is for everyone, and I just thank God for the joy he gave me, the happiness and the love. And I was going to say Pastor Ayo is a good pastor as well too. He's helped me along the way as well too, to grow, to be able to have opportunities to preach and to be able to develop, to help train for this destiny to come. And I just want to give God all the thanks and praise and glory, because I couldn't have done it on my own. But it's just a matter of just making a decision that this is what you want. That's what I have to say. Amen. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you, brother. Wow. Yeah, I'm blown away, bro. I had no idea the extent of what life had dragged you through prior to your salvation, and you're saying you knew nothing about the gospel before you met Pastor Crosdale, nothing at all.
Nothing about the gospel.
Okay, so we have to come to that place where we realize that the gospel is real and it transforms lives. If we submit to the Lord and follow him, he does so much. And so we want to open it up to some questions. If you have anything you want to ask Kevyn, then please ask. And it's good to have Pastor Ayo here as well. I think I saw him earlier. So yeah, do you have any questions at all? Let me just give you the ability to unmute yourselves. And so you can feel free to ask. Or maybe
I just wondered, by the way, that was an amazing testimony. Thank you for sharing. I just wondered if any of your the previous friends and obviously the people that you were with before, whether they started to, whether they came to know Christ through seeing the changes in you, and whether they eventually followed suit.
Yeah, great question.
Yeah, great question. Well, the truth is, most of them that I witnessed to tell them about Christ, they were not open to it. They did not want it. Salmon, for example, I had a talk with him a while back about the gospel, and I said to him, I said, man, this gospel is real, man. Jesus Christ is real, man. Why don't you turn from this kind of lifestyle and just come and follow God, man? You'll see something powerful happen for you. But as he told me that, you say, Kev, here what way? I spoil him this thing. I spoil him my ways. I spoil him his business. I cannot give up this for Jesus and the gospel. I chose my bed. This is what I want to do. I said to him, man, one day you will die, you face God, and then see when I face God, when that time come. But this is where I stand with that. So, and unfortunately, he left this earth without being saved. There's another guy. His name was Ninja. That was his nickname, but his real name was Stefan. I introduced him to the gospel. He used to always wonder, always ask the question, how it is you could give up all of this? You give up all this money, all this respect, all this power, and all these gills for church, for God, for Jesus, a man who you can't even see, a man who you don't even know. You could give up that. And I said, well, boy, I gave it up because I understand a relationship with him. It's not about what you can see, but it's a relationship with him is what will help you. You had to read his word, and that's how you get to know him. And well, Stefan, he didn't want the gospel at all. He wanted to get revenge on people. Until this day, I believe he's passed away now. He got a huge, he was always war with people. The same people I left with him to create good connections with and stuff, turned out to hate him. And people will always ask, well, why it is that I give him that when I go into church. And it had a couple times walking in the street and I saw old friends that would stop and we would talk and we would say, Kevin, you really leave this thing? You really go to church for it? I say, yeah. Not in this anymore. And he was like amazed. I said, but how you could do that? I said, like, God is real, but. And he was like, wow, different. It had times when Pastor now came and walks up one or two people. They would ask Pastor was asking, hey, do you know this man? Like, you sure? They were asking if you sure you know this man. And some would be like, Pastor, watch yourself with him, and and over time things change. But the gospel, I tried to witness to them, but most of them from that certainly didn't want it. So that's why I made a decision to cut them out clean. Don't line with them, call them. But when Salman died, when Sharon died, I got the opportunity. They called me from the Mexican pastor to give me authority over what he was running. That time I was in church already locked in. I still had no whole SIM card at that time, so people could have still called me. But after that, I told them, I said, nah, I'm not into that. And they said that we heard rumors, quote unquote rumors, that you go into church and you're not into this thing anymore. I say, that's right. Well, I say there's no rumors, that's the truth. And guys then was like, come on, man, consider it, man. You have things, After that one conversation, I got rid of. I told Sabrina at the time when we were meeting. I decided that I'm gonna break that SIM card off, because the truth is, too many people from the past have that number, and they would contact me. I just broke that SIM card off and got a new number. So it was really a decision, but those people didn't want it at all. I have one or two that I spoke to recently, they want to come to the gospel. It's just the struggle is to try and get them to come, because how I felt when I first came in as misplaced, out of order. They feel the same way, as in they need to dress up good and all these kind of things. So trying to get them to look past that and just come, But yeah, but it's hard to get those type of guys to give up.
Yeah.
That I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, no, it does. Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome.
Great question. Another question for you. Because of the way you lived, you obviously had enemies, people who didn't like you because of the stuff that you did. Once you got saved, you got rid of all of your weapons and your connections. Did you ever bump into enemies after salvation? And if so, how did that go?
Yes, I bumped into a few enemies. One of them was actually being Curepe Junction when we outreaching. His name is Fox. He's out there outreaching, and that day we had a conversation, and he was like, "But wait now, I never liked your head, when you out here preaching." I said, "Well, yeah." I said, "Well, that was the past." I said, "Well, here you see now, I'm not on that life anymore. That's cool with you. Let me just bury this thing." I was like, he was surprised, as in like, you preaching the gospel. And now we just talk, but we're not friends. We're not friends, but we have a civilized understanding. But I didn't have much enemies to say, like 20 enemies, but I had one or two people, like Rastaman. Rastaman I had an issue with, but I haven't seen him in years. Last time I probably saw him, that was before he used to go the other direction. Because of how he got shot down. So he used to run the other direction, but I've never really seen much of them. It was only that guy in Junction and seen more. The rest of them, I'm not certain where they are now.
Okay, CJ, you got a question? Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thank you, Kevin, for just sharing your testimony. Yeah, God is really good. It's good to see you again, and congrats on your marriage. I just wanted to ask, has your relationship with your father changed since you've been saved? Like, has your perspective of him changed? And how has that kind of dynamic changed, if it has?
Yeah. Well, my relationship with my father actually changed now. In the beginning, the relationship with my father wasn't good because I didn't want to call him. I just never wanted to deal with him. But now, since I've gotten closer to Christ, I understand what it means to forgive. My father and I have a good relationship now, whereas we communicate. And he said to me at a point in time that I didn't know this. As when we were talking, he said to me that, you were always a different child when you were born. He said that back then, pastors used to tell him that, that your son is called to do something great for God. That's what he used to tell me. But he, and then from an early age, he always saw like a difference in me, and he said that, you're different from the rest of my children. And he really grateful for the way how the situation played out with our relationship, that I'm not having any bitterness towards him, like the other siblings, and that we can actually have a conversation. And he apologized so much for not doing the right thing, and we going from there. We talk good. We talk now and then, and it's been a long good conversation, But now my relationship with my father is getting better, and there's no resentment, no bitterness, no anger or hatred for him. Now it's just a matter of just communicating, and we just going. I was encouraging with the gospel. Just of recent, I was telling him, look what happening in the times now. Everything is said in the Bible. I'm thinking, man, you had to take some time to read the Bible. It's truth, But but he's the type. It'll take him a while. But hey, at least when he came to Trinidad, he came to church.
Yeah.
But our relationship is good. We're really good now. I must say, thanks be to God.
Amen. That's a miracle.
Okay, I don't know if we have any more questions. I've got one more for you. So let me just quickly see this. Bearing in mind, in Trinidad, we are told we have about 100 gangs and we average close to 500 murders a year. That's crazy. Thank God Kevin was not a statistic and he is saved. And again, for those of us who did go to Trinidad when we had the opportunity to do so, meeting you, we would have never known about your past because what's happened to you and to many of us here is literally supernatural. This isn't, like you said, it's not a religion. What you found was a relationship with a living God, and he was able to transcend everything that had happened, your lack of knowledge about him, and do everything in there. I've got one last question for you, and then we'll call it a night. Obviously growing up, your father wasn't around, your grandfather, the way he treated your family, and all of the turmoil that you went through as in being in a gang, to now you're married. You're in a relationship with no reference point to how those relationships work, if that makes any sense. And so can you talk us a little bit about how God has put your life together that you can have a successful marriage and have hope for the future to one day preach the gospel?
Well, I'll be honest with you. The first thing I have to start with is the love. I really didn't understand what was love back then, in terms of what was the requirement for a husband to love a wife. I did not understand that, but God is the one that really helped me to understand. And the conversations with our pastor, Ayo, to help in terms of, the growth process, but I've learned that it's a lot of patience, a lot of patience when you get married, and it's a lot of constant work. It's a lot of constant work, whereas, because God called us husbands to cover our wives, right? And to love our wives, right? And one of it is that we have to put in that work. That love, I didn't understand the actions of it, but over time now with my relationship with God and getting closer to him, I understand what is required as a husband to do. I may not get everything all right, but at least I could safely say that I've come a long way from not caring to caring now.
Powerful.
That my wife and I could have discussions on other stuff. Now our marriage is pushing forward in the right way. That that we're growing together now as one. Because before I would have operated separately. As my mindset is, I know how to explain our mindset totally, but now I understand what it means to be one flesh, and accountability is something that I struggled with in my marriage, because I lived a double life for a long while, if I got saved, and I never had anyone to answer to, but to ask where you're going, who you're going with, and why, and what time you're coming back. So so when you got married now, these are accountability things that came at me, and it was like, I felt it was normal that I didn't need to say anything. I just do what I do, but I was wrong. I was wrong, and by ironing out those problems, eventually marriage started to grow because we started to communicate better. Wasn't able to communicate effectively in the earlies, because I wasn't really want to talk much of how I feel or what about my feelings and things, because I had a mental box in my mind for years and I never used to talk much. But now, as marriage now, I feel if I need to talk about something, I will express it. But the center in marriage is Jesus first, and that is really the success. Because trust me, if it was me alone, boy, I'd have blown this thing away.
Your wife just said yes, that's right. So very good. All right. Well, Kevyn, again, thank you so much. It's been a phenomenal, very succinct, very poignant testimony. And so I want to highlight for everyone listening now, and for those who are going to watch online later, imagine if, Pastor Crosdale hadn't given him that flyer. Imagine if Pastor Crosdale hadn't said, Jesus loves you, and took time to take him under his wing and teach him. Imagine if Pastor Ayo hadn't answered the call to go to Trinidad. As much as God moves very powerfully in people's lives, there is there's always someone bridging the gap. And so I want to speak to every Christian and encourage you, never be afraid to speak the gospel. If Pastor Crosdale can speak to Seva, you can speak to the guy down the road, you can speak to your auntie, you can speak to someone and just tell them that Jesus loves them. Tell them that we're living in perilous times. Tell them that their sins can be forgiven, that heaven can be their home. Tell them that the gospel is there for them, and you never know what seeds you're going to sow. And I'm sure that there's many people Pastor Crosdale spoke to that never responded, but Kevyn did. And the ripple effect that's going to have, should the Lord tarry, is mind-boggling. And so for those who don't know Jesus, I want to tell you now, after listening to his story, I don't know how you can be moved to understand that Christ can change your life. The gospel is good news because Jesus Christ came, he died for our sins, and he wants to be involved in your life. He wants to roll up his sleeves and get his hands right into your life and rescue you. That's what salvation is. It's a rescue. We are bound by so many things in our past, and Christ, what he wants to do, if you will allow him, is to rescue you. So we want to encourage you, give your life to Jesus. Contact Pastor Ayo if you're listening from Trinidad, or contact us on the details below if you're listening here, and we'll give you all the resources you need to know how to start this relationship with Christ and what it means for you.